Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Coding Until. I'm your host Johnny, it's Friday and I hope you've had a lovely week. In the previous 2 weeks we've created a brand new app with Svelte. Last week we created a brand new app with Next.js. We won't be doing something as adventurous this time, hopefully it's going to be a shorter stream but still super fun. This week I was thinking that we can recreate one of my older videos from last year where I implemented a typing animation in React. Last week we got a nice shout out from Joy of Code, who does excellent videos as well, a lot of them in Svelte and Svelte land, and it just so happened that we did a React stream there, which was quite funny. We've done one more React stream which was implementing a Svelte video in React, so I thought it'd be nice and funny and quite easy for me and straightforward viewing for you to try to do a React video in Svelte today. So without too much ado, this is the video we'll be trying to base off of, and it's one of those cases where I do feel a bit of imposter syndrome watching my own video and doing my own stuff, because I did well here. With the power of editing and preparation. Today I have rewatched this video, but I haven't actually looked too far into on how we're gonna attempt this and do this in Svelte. What we're gonna do is this type of component. So you can see here on the screen how the site is typing in a few more superpowers for Eri, a friend and client, for this site that I use for demo purposes. And it looks quite cool. I think you may have seen this effect around. It is quite popular because it is mostly CSS and, light inclined at JavaScript as well. So it is something you can put above the fold without hurting your performance too much. You can render your first superpower or whatever quite fast and then worry about hydrating on the client and all of that. So without too much worry, without shipping too much to the client, you can get a nice effect that makes your visitors think that you're legit and that you know what you're doing. Maybe something to note before I go off screen, just to maximize confusion, talking about SvelteKit Next.js. I am wearing my Remix t-shirt today. Remix is another framework that used to be paid for, and I love supporting projects. So I did support and got this nice jacket in return. Remix, of course, had amazing news this week, acquired by Shopify, so I'm excited how that develops. And I do think the work the Remix people have done has already helped other frameworks grow. We saw last week how Next.js has implemented their layouts way of rendering things, and SvelteKit, of course, relatively recently had this whole different way of scaffolding your application, inspired by the blog post that was saying Next.js is going to work that way. That was maybe inspired by the way Remix was doing things. So that's the great thing with doing things in public, I suppose. Good ideas get expanded upon, iterated, borrowed, and everyone wins in the end. I guess we win, the developers win in the end. Let me know in the chat how you're doing. Once again, I hope you've been having a lovely day. We'll try to do this in SvelteKit. I've already created a new demo page in our SvelteKit app, the TechieCat SvelteKit app. You can find for free, open source and free in GitHub as well. And I suppose we'll jump straight into the code. So this page, all it is it has some meta information that we'll probably not use at all today, but it also has a heading, this thing, and this I suppose is going to be the place where we type something. Maybe I can make everything bigger and begin everything. So you can see it on the screen, but also to not confuse it with the title. And maybe this part is gonna be the thing that we retype, so the laugh type of thing. Can be a few words that we cycle in between. Let me know in the comments what the words should be, if you'd like, in the chat. And we can probably say that this is text primary. And maybe this is text secondary. And I can actually make it even bigger. So you can see it nicely on the corner here. Let me check the agenda once again. Talked about what we're doing, typing component. I should mention that there are libraries for this, so if you just want to get on with it and have this on your page, there are quite a few libraries that you can use. Svelte Typewriter does it with Svelte actions as well, which is a cool way to do it, which I don't think we're actually gonna do today. Be mindful of other libraries or any library we're gonna use. They may have unnecessary big button sizes, and in general, I do think this type of problem, this type of feature to add, is quite fun to do. I think it will help you. It's an exercise that I use to test candidates sometimes. It's an exercise that I use myself, like today, to see if I can do this in Svelte or another language even, not just something that's JavaScript, TypeScript, because there are quite a few things to watch out for. You'll need to do timeouts, events, like that sort of thing. So it's a fun one to try to do for yourself. If you just want to get on with it, the client really wants it and you want to ship something, use a library for sure. So first thing we'll try to do here on minute maybe 50 is a blinking cursor. So this thing, when we're paused, we want something to blink. And let's try to think, how did I possibly do that? So maybe at the end, in a pseudo element, we can have a content of a pipe character, which maybe does something. I do have the Tailwind docs as well, so maybe we need to escape it like this, or encase it in quotes even. Maybe not. Maybe we need, let's see. I thought that with Tailwind, that's all you need to add a little component there, the pseudo element there, but maybe we need some width, some height, something else. Let's get to the inspector. Let's see what type of elements we have in there. So no pseudo element here. It doesn't look like it needs to be like a... Oof. It was an equal sign instead of a dash, which may have played a part. Maybe not. Let's try the one we got from Tailwind itself. Still not visible, but maybe we did get an element right here. The answer is no. Interesting. So this is exactly the same. So it should look... Oh. But that's the arbitrary value support. So what more could we need here? Try this and see the page reload as well, just in case we have a little cheeky crash. It's quite interesting because I don't really know what else may not be applying here. So square brackets, encase it in a string, you're good to go. So this should do it. We should be seeing hello world here. If you can't see hello world in a stream, then you know you're in trouble. Let's try to restart this dev server, because sometimes, yeah, sometimes the scanning doesn't quite work on its restart. I guess that was our problem. In any case, we want the pipe character here. Now it works. It's huge. And if we don't have the codes, it doesn't quite work, which is fair enough. Maybe we want some padding or a different text style. Maybe not as big for the cursor. Maybe this big seems to be about right. And maybe we want it to be a different color. So maybe the after is text, secondary 200, lighter. Or it could be the color of our text, so it will work on dark mode. You can almost see it regardless, so maybe it's fine to keep. Maybe just from how it looks, we can add some padding to the bottom. Maybe not. Padding all around, sure. After display block, won't quite work. Well, it will work too well. Some padding on the left, just a tiny bit of padding on the left, maybe what we want. And the next thing we want to do is make this blink. That'd be nice. The way we've done a few of the custom classes, custom animations we've done here, is by specifying an extra animation using extra keyframes here. So we can specify a blink animation which just has opacity 0 at the 50% point. So in the middle goes to that point. Something didn't quite like. More curl is needed here. That was it. And we can call this blinking. And if I remember correctly, what we did in the other video is we specified a blinking animation which uses the blink keyframes, takes 1 second and does the step start thing, but we can start without the step start so we can see the difference. So blink, we'll use this in 1 second and play it forever. So hopefully if we add it in our after pseudo animation, animate blinking, you can see that it actually transitions from opacity 0 to opacity 100, while if we actually use this step start or a similar attribute, it will go from 0 to 1. So it will have concrete, discrete steps instead of trying to transition in between. I guess we don't need the semicolon here. So blinking cursor achieved. Looks alright in light mode. Maybe a bit too bright, but not bad. So, cursor is blinking. Let's type out a single word. Let's try to type out this, and that's maybe the most interesting bit. So let me have a sip here. We'll extract this into a Svelte component, but what is this gonna be? Will it be the whole div here? Will it just be this part? I'm not sure. But let's say it's all of this for now. And typing to Svelte some for now. And it is gonna have a script, TypeScript script here, because I imagine this is gonna be dynamic at some point. The alaf or any word we want to type is gonna be dynamic. But for now, word to type. Let's say, is typed word? What do we call want to call this component? Typed. Typed reminds me of like TypeScript types. This is type. It's also not a word, it's a sentence. Can be anything. So the beginning sentence is gonna be this. And let's use it here. So now it's the same, but if I change this, then it does add it in the end quite quickly, which is cool. And another question is, am I really bothered from how low this cursor goes? Maybe, but not bothered enough. The important thing is that this should have some state of typed to index, and this is going to be 0 to start with because we've typed nothing. And then we can probably resolve that the typed sentence is sentence slice from 0 to the type to index. And then that's what we print here. So initially we print nothing, but then we want to keep adding to this index. So how do we do that? On mount, the magic Svelte method, we can say that the GitHub Copilot is trying to help and may be helping quite a lot. We don't want an interval, just set a timeout. And the timeout can be 1000 or 100. And then we also clear the timeout. And this is a timeout, not an interval. So if we navigate somewhere else, this doesn't try to run and do something naughty. And here GitHub Copilot is trying to do something too clever for us. So actually, we do want to do this check. So the type to index, is it plus 2. If it's smaller than the length of the sentence, I think we want to increase it, to increment it. So it starts at 0, the length of the sentence is whatever, it's like, if it was this, it'd be 1. So 0 plus 2 would be bigger, so that's probably not what we want. The current index is 0, if that plus 1 is still the length of the sentence, then we want to increment. If not, we don't want to do anything, so that may work. But in the end of this, we want to set another timeout to do the same thing. So this, we want to do some recursing in here. Let's see where we're at. Let me switch to not disturb mode as well. I forgot. Right, so how do we call this recursively? Increase type to index, and then if we do this, should this set the timeout? I think so. Maybe not. We do want it to do this, that's for sure. What is responsible of setting the timeout is my question now. So we couldn't pass this method there, but it doesn't keep adding itself. And we do need this clearing to happen at some point. So do we need a reference of like the current timeout? For the cleanup operation, that's my wonder at the moment. We do probably want this to do all of this and then call itself. If it makes it to this case. And it can return this. So we can actually inline this. But return this. This should be returning the timeout, which is not a Node.js timeout, interestingly enough. Let's see if MDN has a type. Ah, it's an indicator, of course. But this thinks that it's something else, that it's timeout. But we're not in node land. Can we do something clever here? So with SvelteKit, can we check if we're on the browser? there is something. There is this. So we can say only do this if we are running on the browser. So if not browser, return. And if you are on the browser, do all of these things and return set timeout. Now, how do we convince TypeScript that this is not running on Node and it's actually number? That would be a good question to answer. And I just say number here and then it magically gets happy. Not quite. But why would this be? Let's say that timeout is something. Maybe we can do something else. We can have timeout clear, typing timeout, and it's null. And then the typing timeout is this. And I don't want to typecast this at all. And we can say that this returns a timeout now, although that's probably not true. This is null or timeout, not JS timeout. There must be a better way to do this, but that's by the by. So when we run this method, we do sometimes return, and maybe it returns nothing. So don't even do this, just call yourself. But we know on this mount, we don't actually run all of this. We say increase type to index, don't pass anything. And when you clean yourself up, you want to clear this, the typing timeout. If it exists. Even though if you clear timeout with null, nothing bad will happen. So yeah, this seems to work on the right. I hadn't even watched on that. We can make the timeout a bit slower. So we can watch it here. And we can have a typing speed. Maybe export that. Hello, Neat in the chat. Maybe 300. It's the typing speed. add it here, and on the right, we can see we're typing something. And you can change this a little bit and say, have a bit of variance on your typing speed as a human, or if it's empty space, then you type a bit faster or something like that, but let's keep a nice 300 for now. I think we're good to go. Let's check what we're gonna do now. So we may want, we'll want to delete what we've written and allow for multiple words eventually. So that could be the thing that we do next. But I will do a tiny little coffee break, switch to my face view and the agenda view. Try to remember, let me know in the chat. If I forget to switch back, probably get this jacket off as it's starting to get warm as we're warming up. But yeah, next steps would be start deleting so we can start typing the next word. And I suppose we could introduce phases to our animation. So we'll have the typing phase, then a pause phase so we can admire what we've typed. And then in the end, we go to the delete phase, and then we cycle back into the writing phase or typing phase or whatever we're gonna call it. So that's the plan. Let's get to it. Increase typed to index is the only thing we're doing now. So we know up to how much we've written. What do we need to call this? Something else to account for different cases? Like, do we want like a handle typing or something? And maybe the only thing that does for now is increase type to index. And what we do on mount is actually called handle typing. But I'm doing all of this because maybe we have a state or phase. Let's call it typing, deleting, waiting, typing, pausing, deleting, let's say. And the phase starts with typing. Then we can say, or I guess a switch case, switch on the phase, and then GitHub Copilot is adding quite a lot to me. But in the typing phase, we want to increase type to index, and that's about it. And then we don't want to call this and then this phase, we haven't returned no brick. Maybe that was the problem. Does it know that it never becomes pausing? That's why it's underlining. We'll figure it out. If the type to index is as much as the length of the sentence, then, well, first of all, let me call this handle typing. So what should I call this? Not handle typing. Controller, typing controller. Init. Init typing. I'm not sure. Typing animation handler. guess here. And this I want to call handle typing phase, which calls itself. Interestingly, maybe it shouldn't call itself. Maybe this should be the thing that checks, but I'm not sure. But what we're saying is that else we change the phase to posing. And that was our problem all along. This should have been a let. So fair enough. Eventually our phase should go to posing here. So this should run. So here, let's say that our type to index is 3, 2, just for seeing it bounce back. Maybe we don't get there. Interestingly enough. Is it because this doesn't run on every render? I guess this runs once. This only runs once, and when it actually runs here, it just happens to set itself up to go to the next phase. So maybe we don't actually want this weird handler situation. For now, our phase can be one of these three things. Or maybe not. We'll see. We'll keep going, rolling with the punches. I definitely want to create something similar. Or maybe not. So handle posing phase is what I want to create. And similarly, we're not on the browser. Well, I guess we can do this check here. Like on mount, if we're not on the browser return, this only runs on the browser, so we shouldn't even need to do that. We started doing this because we had TypeScript problems with this, figuring out the node definitions for timeout, but that's by the by. On the posing phase, you don't really want to do anything except, so maybe we call this current timeout, not typing timeout. So the current timeout is, we do want to do something regardless, and what we want to do is get to the deleting phase, but it's gonna be pause time ms. So how long we want to pause, maybe for a second. And then we go straight to the deleting phase. And the delete phase and deleting phase, GitHub Copilot is writing quite a bit of code here. So here, the posing phase, do this. And here, in the deleting phase, we'll want to do something similar as our typing phase, but in reverse. Which I think GitHub Copilot has figured out. So maybe we can have a delete speed. It be 100. And use it here. But I think if the type to index is more than 0, without any -1, if the current type to index is more than equal, alright, I see. The type to index is 0, we don't want to do this, we've already achieved our goal. It's 1, we do want to decrement. So if it's 1 or more, we make the index smaller, time to index smaller, and we keep going, calling ourselves handle deleting phase. Else, we switch the phase to typing and call handle typing phase here, which should get us back in the loop. So I'm hoping here on the right, we'll see typing, pausing, deleting. After a second, not quite. So it seems like we didn't make it here. It's because we didn't do this. We didn't call this method. After this, I'm confident it will work. After a second, yeah, we go back and we start typing again. So pretty cool, I'd say. Here's what I'm looking at. This part, we pause for a bit and then delete all the way back. And it's all the same word for now. We'll add a different word afterwards. So I was trying to play with like the controller here because I dislike having these methods determine what we need to call afterwards. So maybe this is the refactor that we'd want to do. And I was thinking about a controller of sorts. We do want this cleanup to run after mount. We do want a phase handler, I guess, which could be the switch case we're talking about. And it's here. Handle typing, handle pausing, handle deleting. I think there is a neat trick where you can do default never, where TypeScript will complain. Which would tell me that I forgot to handle all the possible cases, but I don't see it working now, so I'll try to remember it afterwards. It's in my head. But here in the phase handler, or phase deriver, and say that the next phase, do these return the phases? Maybe. Let's see if Svelte has a way to do this. Not SvelteKit. Svelte run whenever attribute changes. Just don't need to assign anything. Just use the magic this. Phase handler phase. So if we just run this with a phase, it should run us through everything. So we don't need to do anything on mount actually. We just need to clear the timeout regardless. Let's see if it still works. It looks like it does. Will it work if we don't manually call this? Yeah, it seems we are adding too many timeouts here. So let's not, whenever we change the phase, we don't need to call the method that needs to be called afterwards. And it works the same. If we don't want to call this either, I suppose, we could make this depend on the current phrase. Make things more complicated, the type sentence. But maybe we don't need that. We'll see. The next step would be making this work with multiple words. So let me have a quick sip and we'll figure out how to do that. Maybe that's when we'll need to refactor something even further. Let's see it. So instead of specifying the sentence here, we want to get an array of sentences from wherever we're using this from. So exportlet sentences, which should be a string array and default to nothing. And this will crash once I save, so I'm trying not to do anything. Let's say let's keep this. Let's call it selected current sentence. And let's do let sentences, it's a string array. And we'll figure that out in the future. Definitely export this. And here we want to say our sentences let me know in the chat if you want other phrases there. So the current sentence, maybe we use an index for this. So let currently selected sentence index equals 0. So we start at the very first one. Then the current sentence is gonna be from the sentences we were given, the one that's on the currently selected sentence index. Mouthful for sure. Let's save and see this works and starts from the beginning, which is sweet. But then doesn't move on to the next sentence. I will do that in a moment, but first this is annoying me because these could be consts. If they are consts, you usually sort them. So we need to change this. When do we change it? When we're done deleting, I imagine. When we're done deleting, or even when we're done typing, when we're done deleting, that makes more sense. So before we go to the next typing phase, we can say currently select sentence index +1, but it depends. So this actually becomes weird modulo here that GitHub Copilot is trying to tell us. I don't quite understanding, so I'm actually gonna do. So if sentences length -1 equals, or sorry, actually, so if our current index plus 1 is more than the length, then those become plus 1, or else it goes back to 0 to cycle through the beginning. Does that make sense? So we start at 0 and we have 3 words. 0 plus 1 is 1, which is so this should be smaller. It's smaller than 3, which is fair enough, so it will increment. Then 1 plus 1, 2. It's more, it's less than the total length of 3. So should this be -1? I guess. I think so. Because of the 0 index. Or we can make it like +2, I suppose. So should go Svelte tutorials, then the next one we passed, React guides. They do happen every once in a while. Just not, which is why we're good for a laugh. Guess we didn't do the equal sign. Svelte tutorials, React, and then we're hoping to see laugh, and then we're hoping to go back to the first one. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, seems like it works. So that's pretty cool. What else would we like to do? So we're handling passing in an array here of many things. I'll keep praising myself if you don't write in the chat what to type there. But that's by the by. We have this type in animation component that takes in a few sentences, and there are configuration options that we could be passing here, whether how fast we want to type, or whether this should be a bit variable, so not exactly 300, but to simulate a real person typing this, to have a bit of a varying time, or just to say this component for this animation have every letter be typed this long, or pause for longer. Other things we could do, I suppose, is if we're hovering over, then we could actually be pausing the animation, or if you click, then you immediately type fast, or start deleting, go to the next phase. I'm not actually sure what we'd like to do there. But the cursor, I guess, is not realistic. I think in my terminal, the cursor never blinks when I delete things. And I think it also never blinks as I type. So really, it only blinks when I'm paused somewhere. So maybe that's something we can simulate as well. But let's have a look at the agenda for the day. Let's see where we're at. We just did this. 55 minutes strong. And yeah, and the agenda did have this. Predictably, how can we decide whether we're blinking or not blinking? Which would be interesting. We do blink because we apply this class, the animate blinking. The animate blinking class. So if we have a conditional class here, then, which I think we do with class and then the class name, but because it's Tailwind, it can look a bit weird. So let's see where we'll get that. Let's say that we want to only conditionally apply this. Let's remove it first and see that it's always there, which is good. And Then we want to say that the class after animate blinking, do we need to escape this in some way? I think not. It says that if we say true, then it will blink all the time, like before. Great. But we only want to animate blinking if the phase is typing. It's not what we want, sorry. In the pausing phase, it blinks. So as you type, it doesn't blink. When you pause, it blinks a bit. And that's the blinking done, which I think is a bit simpler than how we've done it in React land, which is quite cool. Did we simulate how this works nicely? So yeah, even if it's not blinking, if I start typing, it appears and it never blinks. And similarly for deletion, it is always there. So now, I do want to make this a bit more variable. So how would we do that? Random number. Stack Overflow will be our answer, which I guess GitHub Copilot would have done it as well. And we could do this. Is there anything else? So from 1 to 6, yes. So do we create this method? Why not? Do we have a lib directory? We do. So let's create a random number. I guess it's random integer, whole number. Number. And then can immediately return all of this. Typing variance, let's say that it's also a number varied by 30. Let's say 20. When? And all of this is simply typed, inferred by the definition immediately. It's a constant, so it should be fine. I need to spell it out. So now, where we use the typing speed, which is, I guess, just here, we actually want to do the random integer, call that method. And we want it to be from typing speed minus typing variance, typing speed plus typing variance. So now, hopefully it's a bit more realistic, maybe more variance. Bit more variance and faster typing speed in general. Feel free to play around with these numbers accordingly. Let's confirm that this works. So yeah, sometimes it's instant, sometimes not. So this seems to work. Cool. So the typing speed, the minimum is going to be the typing speed minus the variance. The maximum is going to be the typing speed plus the variance. So we get a bit more realistic here in the deletion. And we can even do the same with the delete speed. Or maybe that's not enough. Hello, ZTJ in the chat. But yeah, some variants here. Partial word deletion I've added here. Interesting. That may be fun to do. So if we happen to have a word that has the same letter, it can stop to a good, or here I guess, like delete, laugh, and go up to here and then start typing time. So not delete everything and then go to the next one. That could be fun to do for the future. And I guess this is gonna be it for the stream, so might as well try this. I guess something also cool could be that these sentences can be dynamic, so you can be getting these from the server. So if you have a client, they will definitely change their mind and want to type something else at some point if you have a dynamic element like that. Like not that often, but you can give them a Google spreadsheet or something in Notion, and you can get the data from there. So whenever they want to update this, then they can without you having to do a deployment or something like that. So that could be something to kind of showcase, kind of slightly fake it, I suppose. Because this, on our typing animation page.server.ts server side, we can actually get the sentences here. So the sentences can be this and be returned as data. And these you could actually be getting by doing a fetch request to a GitHub repository or Notion or Google Spreadsheets, something like that. So your client can get in and edit them as they please without bothering you. And if you do that in SvelteKit, SvelteKit is clever enough to know that there is going to be a data that's going to be page data here. So our data here, the magic of SvelteKit that I did miss when I tried out Next.js last episode, we'll have these straight from the server. So GTJ, I want to know about program which is running with paid version 1 day, extend for 7 days, which software I need contracting online server for login. I imagine from your question, you want to create a SaaS, like a service like this? It sounds like something you can do with Stripe, which we have done a live stream on, and we'll definitely do more again. So if you want to create a software as a service type of startup or business or whatever else, you can use Stripe even with no code or low code, and have something that people can subscribe to per week or per month, or you decide the interval. And then you will need to do some of your own database magic to actually sync up who has paid and who hasn't paid, who is on a trial period and whatnot. But if that's the question you're asking and you haven't looked into Stripe yet, then this is my answer. This is what I can point you to for today. Feel free to clarify, and I'll clarify further as well. So, partial word deletion. We're thinking that here in our typing animation component, as we're deleting, maybe we want to stop deleting earlier, I guess. Let me answer that interesting question. If you haven't done coding at all, I would suggest indeed check out Stripe, look at their docs. They do have solutions that are no code at all. So you define your product in Stripe and then they give you some UI that you can give as links to your clients, and they handle getting the payments and all of that. So you can get very far with a bit of config here in Stripe and no code at all. And as far as what coding you should pick up, if you'd like to pick up, I really think that with TypeScript you can go very, very far, because you can run it on the browser, client side, you can run it on the server. Most jobs that I see that are quite well paying as well, eventually after you get through the junior threshold, are full stack TypeScript or JavaScript. So if you want to look into a language as well in parallel, try to look into some TypeScript and JavaScript tutorials. I've recently discovered Wes Boss, if you can believe that, but he's an amazing educator and covers quite a lot about JavaScript and TypeScript. So I don't know, maybe one day I'll grow up to be Wes Boss. I only found out, I heard of his reputation maybe a year or two ago, but I only checked out his stuff more thoroughly recently, and he's quite good. So I do recommend JavaScript, TypeScript as a language of choice to learn. Have a look at Wes Boss. I do have content in my channel as well, of course, but not quite as much as Wes has. Or Joy of Code as well, who started out this channel. Have a look there. I do the live streams every Friday, suggest topics on things that you're stuck on, and I'll do more, but I don't have the amount of content that some other people have. Besides the language, you can get quite far with just Stripe and no code of your own. So thanks for this question, keep asking. I do think at this point the partial word deletion is not like a super required feature. That's why I'm a bit beating around the bush around this. And right, so on a good one, exactly as it happened here on the side, we want to start typing almost immediately. How would we do that? So in the deleting phase here, we don't only care about did we reach 0, we care about reaching the common place where the string we've typed is the same as the string of the next word. So should we type the next word? Trying to think that I've deleted enough. It's gonna be if we are already on 0, or the type to index the current sentence type to index and that's gonna be just a letter, so just want slice. So the type sentence, I guess. We can derive the next sentence here, even though we won't usually use it. If we won't usually use it, then we can just do it in line. and have deleted enough if the type to index is already 0, or the type sentence the next sentence index of the typed sentence is 0. So we have deleted enough if the type to index is 0, or the next sentence that we have here, this is a whole sentence, the index of the type sentence, this is a partial sentence of the one we're typing now, is 0, which will mean that it starts with the whole type sentence that we have. So we can do this check. And if we have not deleted enough, then we keep deleting and we keep doing handle deleting phase, else we go into the typing phase. The currently selected index, yeah, that seems like it's gonna work. Let's see. In my head it works, and maybe we can do a rant about testing this. With Puppeteer it would be easier since we're doing things on mount instead of extracting into another method. Well, it worked. Somehow it worked. So just to make it a bit more obvious, pretty cool. So let's add this as a pretty cool demo time. The 112 or whatever we had, and then switch to the chat again. Oof, but then do we get stuck at the end? Pretty cool demo, but not perfect demo. Yes. Interesting. The way it stops blinking as well makes me think that we crashed hard. So this is not always a thing. Question mark will get us there. We know that it works so far. Oh, interesting. So that's a bit of a mistake. This should be doing the same thing because it should be going all the way to the A, not deleting everything. Although it does have a bit more character to do it like this. So what were we doing here? I added the question mark, which I don't want to. I guess next selected index could be this immediately. So const next selected sentence index is going to be this +1 if it's less than the sentence's length. So it's +1 or 0. We can use this here and we can immediately assign this here to not do the same thing again and again. So now it should still not give us a runtime error like before, but also it will go all the way back to the A, not clear everything in the end. Oh, the Z, I guess. It's the common one. So even when it shuffles from the beginning, it goes to the correct place. And we can add the other words we had for the laughs. And that may be it. So yeah, I do like how big it is as well. Thinking about it here. Too big. Yeah, I guess I picked this for a reason. And I'm still slightly bothered by how big this cursor is. I guess it's less bothersome when it's bigger than the rest of the content, which is quite funny. It seems like it's a bit offset. And I guess we could also be doing it with like borders or something like that. Then it would be less dependent on your font as well, the typeface. Would that be worth it? Yeah, it doesn't look as nice. But I do like using the same sentence. I do like using the typeface. But how do we make this? A bit offset. We need to make this flex, like I do everything with flex, to be honest. Yeah, doesn't seem to affect it. Anyway, doesn't matter that much. Guess with different typefaces you may get different results for the cursors. I kinda like the pipe. In my editor there is a pipe. Maybe it's a bit chunkier, but that's by the by. But yeah, I think I will call it a stream. GDJ, I'm sorry I can't help you further. There is a Discord if you want to jump in, although it's not here's my problems and here's my answers. I don't have the answer to everything. It's hard to understand what you're trying to do. So if you'd like to provide me some context, please let me know in a comment and I can research it and I can answer as well. Or in Discord, someone else may help you. But it's hard to understand what exactly you want to do there. But it's been amazing to have chat messages, that's for sure. Next steps for this, as I said, this is a fun exercise to do by yourself or have candidates do. I don't like programming interviews and take-home tests and all of that, but pair programming stuff could be fun. So if you haven't done it, then go with a candidate and try to solve it together. and you learn quite a lot about the candidate and yourself and how it is to work together with another person, which I think is much more valuable for real life hiring than telling somebody build this and then review what they've done. Because some candidates, I think that is unfair to the candidates that have more time. Like I know that as a white male without children, I have more time to sacrifice for a good job take-home exercise, for example. But the people that are single parents don't have that much time. They can't spend the weekend over-engineering an interview take-home challenge. So pairing challenges, pair programming challenges, I do like. They give you a good feel on the candidate and they are more conscious of the candidate's time. So give that a try. Give them an exercise like this, like a typing component in Svelte, in React, or something like that. And it would be interesting to see if they reach for tests. This would be harder to do in a test-driven development way if you're not running something like Puppeteer or Playwright, something that runs on the browser, but it would be cool to see if they know about React hooks, testing library hooks, that sort of thing if you're doing React, or Svelte equivalents for all of that. And DDJ, computer science is amazing. I think tech is the way, has been the way for many, many years, and it will be the way for many, many years more. And getting started with JavaScript and TypeScript, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is a really fun way to get into it. So I think you're in for a very pleasurable trip. Hope you stick with it. If that's gonna be it, I will take my final sip of coffee, switch to the facecam view, and wait for any other message that may exist, or else I'm gonna call it a stream. Remember, you can comment on any video, and I will read your comments so long as YouTube shows them to me, and I will do my best to reply. We have the Discord as well if you want to have a bit more back and forth. Sometimes it's very hard for me to search for the things that I've said in the past in comments because YouTube doesn't optimize for that sort of search. While in the Discord it's a bit easier to have like screenshots and explain that, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or this had an error, or this repo had something wrong there. So feel free to get in there. I think it is soon that we will be trying to create an e-commerce site as well, which people have been wanting. I got in the waiting list for Strappy, not Stripe, which is a headless CMS that looks very promising, but it needs you for the time being to run your own server, to run your own database, to host it somewhere else, like old WordPress style, which I don't really want to do. People don't want to have and maintain their own servers, I think. At least I don't. And they have a beta in progress for cloud hosting, Strappy. So I think that would be super exciting for everyone to see me try out in the future. So hopefully I get in there and we can show something cool using that. Last thing, how to detect the program has a virus or not. I guess you are on Windows, so there may be antivirus programs there. I am on Mac, so I'm not really worrying about that sort of thing. Before, the only thing is, if you download from GitHub, that's fine. If you check out things from GitHub, I don't think there will be something too malicious that you can download from there. But if there is a random Discord sending you links and .exe files, then that may be a virus. So try to not open those up. That would be my only advice there. All right. Thanks a bunch for coding with me. This has been fun. Haven't seen this done in quite a while, and I think it looks quite cool in like the black and the purple emerald colors. In light mode, it's a bit too hard on the eyes, but still, it's been fun. I hope you have lovely Fridays and lovely weekends, and I'll catch you all again next week.